Hi guys, good afternoon. Welcome to HeyArchi Podcast. Myself, Nikhil Rodrigo. I am your host for the day. So, we are delighted to bring you this special lunchtime podcast between 1 p.m. and 2 p.m., where we engage in insightful roundtable discussion on architecture, interior design, and a wide range of topics relevant to the built and the unbuilt environment. Each day, we'll feature a unique team led by different architects from across the country, all who are members of the Alpha Club, a business mentorship club by DHub for Architects, India's #2 architectural community. This initiative is closely tied with our upcoming platform HeyArchi, an online portal designed for architects to create their own profiles, access job opportunities, internships, and curated knowledge resources. We also conduct the BIM Foundation program, India's most affordable and efficient online BIM training course, featuring a low student to mentor ratio of 10:1. Everyone here gets a personalized guidance. So, for more details, do check our website and linked in the comments. Getting to the topic and the panel, to kick off the HeyArchi podcast for today's discussion is about basics to home design, to design a home. And we are joined by a group of young minds who closely work in the housing segment, each working closely with their clients to address the problems and that come with an apt solution. Whether it's spaces, materiality, process, or purpose, their work questions and brings new layers and meanings to housing design. So, introducing first, we have architect Ponnadityan, co-founder of People's Architect. They are a Hosur-based design firm dedicated to creating sustainable habitats, embracing ecology, architecture, and water. They specialize in designing earth buildings that celebrate site context, materials, and climate with greater sensitivity and timeless appeal. Next, we have architect Nelson Sujay, the founder of Sol Architects, a design studio rooted in Chennai with a vision for architecture as a holistic lifestyle. Deeply inspired by wellness philosophies and traditional wisdom, Nelson's work focuses on creating emotive and soulful spaces, especially in the wellness retreats, naturopathy centers, and hospitality projects. We also have architect Bala Harikrishnan. People often call him PHK. With 11 plus years of experience in architecture, he loves helping first time home buyers, homeowners to create homes that are cost effective, easy to maintain, and thoughtfully designed for real life. Lastly, I'm architect Nikhil Rodrigo, your host. I am the co founder and principal architect at Nishkala. We are a design based firm in Chennai where we help millennials transform their aspirations into spaces that resonate with their lifestyle and values. So, the first question, since we are all architects here, I'll start with architect Ponnadityan. Architect Ponnadityan, so explain about your first architectural project. How did you get it? I'm sure it was your home. So, how did you get it first?
Thanks for the question, Nikhil. My first project, I would say, there was this project during my college days where I designed a 1 BHK for a neighbor who said, like, we want a house to be built with PMAOI fund. That is literally like 2.5 lakhs just with that fund, right? So, but ended up building a contemporary house of like 10 somewhere around 10 lakh rupees of budget. But I would always like I'm always happy that I got this project as a first project because the experiences I got, like the process I went through, and the effort that I took to like bring the entire design, like come and work into that and into that like certain amount, the small budget. It was a very nice experience, and I would always say that is one very important thing that architects do. It was a challenge, but with the help of mentors and like other architects, I was able to make the design work for that budget. So basically, we got very innovative and creative, like with reclaimed materials like old windows, MS sections, like palm rafters, which were like sourced from very old houses, basically in like Nagarkoil, my region. So this project is in actually like in Nagarkoil, right? So there the actual like construction technique like of like for these 100-year-old houses, mostly it is all like palm rafters and mud walls. So like most of these houses, when the people are like planning to build a new house, they actually like scrap it out, like just demolish the building and throw the like palm rafters as a waste, basically like to firewood. Yeah, so we used I majorly used palm rafters as a main material because it is as strong as MS sections. If you guys haven't seen old palm rafter being cut, I think like it's like a MS like steel member where it's very hard. Like the fibers of palm rafters are very tight and strong, like very thick. So these are the like main materials that we actually considered for the house, which not only saved money but also gave the house a unique character. It's a very different design that I came up with. Yeah, in the end, we finished the project under like our estimated amount came under 4 lakhs, providing that yeah, good design doesn't have to break the bank, like doesn't have to make the client pay more for the entire like execution. But yeah, however, the project was not executed as planned because of like a lot of new materials and reused materials coming into picture. But yeah, so the clients basically used the like basic plan and got
Benefits
new
for that.
materials like cement, and they basically constructed a normal contemporary house. But yeah, so the one thing I learned from this project, and why I'm happy to like explain, like tell this experience out as a first project, because architects like are always like innovative, and like we actually work to bring clients' vision, clients' actual function, and try to bring all their needs into one building. But also like we think about their budget and like how to like put the entire function into this one space, put the entire planning into this one space within the budget, right? So this is one thing like which I was very happy to do, because under 4 lakhs one BHK, not a lot of people, like not the contractors will do for us, do for the basic clients, because the square feet rates are very high nowadays. So I was able to like bring the entire budget within like under 4 lakhs. So yeah, that's one big lesson and big experience that I got, which I would also say like tell a lot of clients that okay, like you are paying architects so that you get the best of like out of what you have in your hand, instead of like getting loans and like spending more amount on the project, right? Yeah. So yeah, this is my first project experience, Mr.
I mean, I think as architects, I think it's more of a value-added business where you sort of add value to the clients. Not necessarily has to be expensive, but also dealing with cost implications, going for what is contextual. So that was well put, Architect Pondathin. Architect Bala, you're from Trichy, so I think you specialize in especially designing homes for. First time homeowners. So they would basically come with a lot of dreams and ambitions. So how do you sort of deal with clients, and how was your first architectural project?
Yes. For me, it's actually how it happened. I still remember the day that I met my first client in cafeteria, explaining about the design that I was prepared for the first time. For me, the this project, when I recall this particular project, this first one, I will put forth three important points which I would always cherish for till. So the first is the clarity that the client he has in his mind when it comes to his project, like what are his basic requirements and how he is going to execute those things, something like that. So the clarity helped me to travel with him for a long time. So this particular project, it took almost some 5 years of time for its completion. So even though it doesn't took pain for me, like since the client us in the further projects, like since this is the first project, this two things help me to gain confidence, like I can do. So before that, we will be working in some other offices and we will be not taking care of the full role of the project. So this two things help me to gain confidence, and in that way I started slowly developing my career in my hometown in Trichy. So this is how it went off.
Thanks, Bala. It's great that you actually spoken about your client who was well, articulated, or he knew what he wanted. So, as an architect, it was also easy for you to identify your brief and get into the project. So, next, Architect Nelson, what is your first architectural project? I know you're practicing in both Chennai as well as in Oroville. So, you tell us about your first architectural project and its experience.
Yeah, Nikhil. So
Okay, Nelson got cut right now. So, so before Nelson comes, probably I'll just Nelson, are you back? Can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm audible. Okay. So, I guess so. My first project was in Chennai actually. So I was working. In that time, I was working in another firm in Ottawa. So that time, one fine day, I got a call from my relative, and he wants to build a house in Chennai. And we came up, we met, and then he described the city. So the point was straightforward. So it was in ECR, Chennai. So they wanted something. Let's say there was G plus two, that was allowed. So the main task we had in that project was the road width of the frontage. The road width of the plot was like 18 feet to 17, 18 feet below that. So then a G plus two will look like we won't be able to enjoy the essence of the. We have a long facade since the uh, site was basically the best. After to block the after, so we had a long facade. The floor heights were huge so that they feel the grandeur inside the space. It was like 12.8 feet for the clear height. So that let long facade. At the same time, we have this challenge of this road width, the content. It was very low. So to achieve, to feel the completeness of the aesthetics of the elevation. So what we did is we did a stack effect on the elevation. It was like ground floor. The first floor was like 12 feet distance from the front, front stone wall. And the second floor was even more distant from the first floor. It was like more of 17 feet from the compound wall. And the terrace comes next. It was like 22 feet from the compound wall. So this was the main thing we dealt with that. Secondly, like Bala said, the client had, my client had a very clear vision towards his product. So his needs and what all he needs inside the building was very, very straightforward. And on the second most thing, what we all enjoy is design freedom, right? So we have design freedom in the at course level. So whatever we do here and there, at least small outputs to make it better from the client side. But because I know there was no hurdles from the client side. He gave us a lot of time, and then he was very, very open to new ideas. So that's what, as the aim architects, we have fresh minds. We will come up with a lot of things to the plate. Because we don't have those restrictions, right? When we start doing, we want to do something new as well, or a creation, right? So he was very open to that. So that thing made the whole design process, and it's getting executed now. Almost going to be another 6 7 months to get done. The process was very fruitful. It was very enjoyed day one till day. It was very enjoyable because client was very supportive all the times. Even when they understood that since we have started, this happened before 2 years. They understood it's time for them. But at the same time, they was very supportive and project. Very enjoyed. That's why.
Thanks, Nelson. I think yours also very similar to what Bala had. You had site conditions as one main challenge, as well as you had a very clear client. So that's a good thing. So my side, my first client, so I look at site as a client, as a project, as two things. One, there's a client, he has his needs, and then there's a context that also has its own needs. So you choose a site. So there are basically the two parties here, stakeholders, and the project that we do as architects is sort of balance. Like at times, my client would want so many bedrooms, but the context, the site could not allow us to have so many bedrooms. So you will have questions about how ventilation can be planned if you achieve so many bedrooms. So that was actually my main focus in my first project. So it was a corner plot. It was my school friend. So it was his house, and he had a very clear idea that his room should be dark. So it was very unique for one side to have a dark room. And since it was a corner plot, so I thought, okay, why not have the dark room, which is like a black box at the corner of the property, and it's sort of projecting out. And that was actually a very form-based approach. We got the form outside, and we said, okay, we'll name it as the panorama box. So that was a black box on the elevation that's on the corner. So looking at the panoramic view of my site, so that is how we initially gave a sketch, conceptual sketch, and the client actually liked it. So after that, it was very we had a direction, like whatever we designed, we knew that the end product should sort of resonate with what we had given as a sketch during the concept stage. So that was very interesting. It turned out to be well as well, because it's something like black on the elevation was very rare. People look black as an inauspicious color to have it on the facade. So there was a client who gave us the opportunity to do black on the facade. So it's a very special project for me while doing it. So again, so we'll get to the second question now. We have all explained about our architectural project, and as architects, right? So we have this challenge of looking at the site. For instance, maybe what is the climate, how hot it is, whether we bring in light. So right now we are in the peak of summers in all our cities. So summer and heat is one major concern when you design home. I believe as architects, we could probably do our part to sort of reduce the heat. So we all have different approaches. So architect Ponaratin, why don't you tell about how do you tackle summer heat in your projects? You're on mute, Ponaratin.
So passive cooling is what we are talking about. In this, actually, like I would, since we are practicing like more vernacular and earth-friendly buildings, so I would say like all the vernacular techniques that worked in the region is the first thing to consider. So it has all like worked out for years. Like it's been working, and like even now we can see buildings with like all the vernacular material, vernacular style. like the wall thickness and everything that they have used. So in that way, I would say using thicker walls made from materials like RR masonry, and recently like we are using rammed earth and even CSEB walls, which again has like lime in it, and it's basically breathing walls. So okay, first let me talk about RR masonry. Like random rubble masonry, basically stone walls. The standard dimensions, standard thickness of a basic RR wall is 1.5 foot, which can be done with either dry wall masonry, which is without mortar, and like even there is technique with mortar also. So these walls basically they are like thicker, and the amount of heat that gets into the building is very less compared to a normal wall. There are studies showing that like thicker walls, that is 1.5 foot thick walls, uh, can reduce like heat convection by up to 50% compared to the normal 9-inch brick walls. This basically this is actually the technique of reduction of rate of heat convection. So this is one technique which people have been like using from our like olden days in our old buildings, and right now as an alternative we are practicing rammed earth walls, which are again thicker. So these walls, because they are not plastered and they are not like processed at the end, like finished with any cement material, so these are actually breathing walls. So what happens is when it is hot outside, the interior is going to be cold, and when it is cold outside, the interior the warmth of the space is being like maintained. So yeah, on passive cooling and basically the thermal comfort, I would say these are the best ways in material and in material wise. So this keeps the interior much cooler during the hotter times. Therefore, like reducing the artificial cooling, yeah, any expenses, yeah.
On that last point, right, the idea of reducing the expenses that said, I've always felt like, we should actually document how much of heat or AC air condition is used in a year in a house which is probably built in such rat trap-ons or other techniques, and actually compared to a like a proper urban house, where people go with the regular brick masonry. I think when you do such techniques, it is more of a longer run. You sort of save up on a longer run in terms of how much you spend as a recurring for your house. So Bala, Trichy is hot. So what type of techniques that you use in Trichy for your projects to reduce the heat?
Yes, Nikhil. So, adding to what architect Adi was telling, the same, if we take the walls, another important element that we have in our building is the windows. So, when I say windows, I will generalize it as the fenestrations or the openings that we have in the walls. So, our studio rights conception, we often get carried away with the images that we see in the internet, especially when we search for the living hall interiors or a living hall design, something tagline, something like that. Then we will be having images which shows as if hall with a larger size windows, which is more suited for colder climates, not suited for our own region. So this is the case what we are dealing with when we come to the size of the openings. We always make sure that it is designed in a proper way. The more the bigger of the size, the more the bigger of the bigger the size of the opening, obviously that is going to bring in the heat inside. Especially for our climate, this will be definitely a tougher one. So in that case, we always want to deal with it. I still remember one particular point what architect B.V. Doshi was telling in one of his interviews. Like we create walls, we provide windows, and then we will close it with the curtains. Then what is the purpose of that particular? So always two things we need to consider, like where we are going to provide that particular window and what we are going to see out of that particular window. This too, if we give a proper specs, definitely building will perform well. So this is what I would like to add to this topic.
I don't know that the moment you said Doshi and the court, right, it was so poetic in a way. You said, what is the purpose of the window if you go with all curtains and blinds and cover it? Something that is very raw in the idea of why a window should actually be used. Something very relatable, what you just said was. Architect Nelson, so your opinion on what type of techniques that you do in Sol Architects to reduce the heat?
So usually what we do is, as Jonathan said, RR masonry, thicker walls, this all goes through. And in places like Chennai, the mindset of the people is like If they have a 40 by 100 feet plot, they want to build at a maximum space. Even they don't want to leave setbacks. As the government rule, it varies from area to area. So the value we give us 5 feet on each side, right? So even nowadays, people are considering why to waste that 5 feet. That's built at its fullest wall-to-wall construction on back from 2.5. So when we talk about thicker walls, they'll be like scared. Oh my God, my room is going to be instead of 10 feet, going to become to 8 feet or something due to the thick size of the wall sizes. So we face this issue always. So what we can do is instead of this in the people's mindset having this kind of things, what we can suggest is there is things for a building the major surface which is going to reduce heat next to the roof is walls, right? So for the walls, what we generally follow in solar architects is, so we suggest using fly ash bricks as the for the masonry. So fly ash, when we use fly ash bricks as for the masonry, so it's basically a byproduct of the coal combustion, but we are using it as bricks as well, right? So it's lighter than bricks. It consider structural load, it's lighter than bricks, obviously. And thermal conductivity, yeah, obviously, since it keeps the interior cooler in the summers as well. And another thing is when we combine another technique with the fly ash which is called rack bond. So it's like a beautiful technique we use because the wall sizes are not going to exceed 1 feet or so. It's same as typical conventional method, which is mine inches. So instead, what we do is we place fire on the wall side. Now, other side of same fire in the center, give a cavity. So what it does is basically, so the summers, the cavity acts as a barrier to not let the heat inside the space. So in summer, it keeps the interior cooler, and in the winters, the same thing happens. It doesn't leave the cold inside directly inside the space. Instead, what it does is it kind of breathes in and then gives the warmer air to the inside the space. So this is one method we typically stick on to buildings when we do in the urban areas. When it comes to all the method is completely different. It's sustainable work. It's totally a different work, right? So there we can do basically under cold and water we name it, we can do it because the construction is also cheaper there in terms of sustainability, and the mindset of the people is also different there. So there we can make these things. So one thing I want to wrap up from this conversation in this topic is, so we don't need technology to always fight the heat. Since the Tamil Nadu is getting hotter and hotter each year by year, it's terrifically hot, right? So we just need to have the right building wisdom. So as architects, we need to encourage the clients to and let them know these much techniques are there to follow. The rate is if the client is concerned about the construction rate, it's going to be similar to the normal masonry wall background also. So nothing big. So what I would suggest is whenever the client is going to build the next home, so I want them to ask to the architects or builders what are the things we can follow to reduce the heat inside the building, such as background or fly ash or RR masonry. Yeah, the list goes on, right? So this is how I understood, and we are following so in the experience of in Chennai, particularly in Chennai.
Okay, nice that you chose the material perspective where you go with the fly ash bricks because of its properties that is very accessible and definitely usable in urban cities like Chennai. And as you said, yes, it, the clients or the people who are planning to build a home should actually think about ask questions on what is the technique. Be open to change. Actually, why should you actually stick to the same setting? Be open to what are the other new techniques. A little bit of awareness from architects would do a world of good. So my take on so there are a lot of things we could implement when you look at passive cooling techniques. So one thing that there's a misconception because we practice mostly in Chennai. We do projects in Chennai, which are homes in a very urban setup. So mostly clients have this idea of a double height space. So there is a little bit of history behind a double height space. So now the double height space is actually perceived as a very luxurious element of the house, where you have a chandelier hanging in a double light spaces right in the living room. But the other aspect in terms of climate when it comes to double light spaces, the simple logic of stack effect, where the hot air actually goes up and the colder air, which is heavier, stays down. So when you have a double light space, the idea is that you let the hot air sort of go up, and the only difference or the only mistake that people do nowadays is they look at it as an aesthetic element. But you need to have some sort of porosity at the top layer so that this hot air sort of goes out. So in that case, you can actually have a very elegant, aesthetically appealing double light space, and also you are able to sort of control the room temperature by letting the hot air rise up and cold air stay down. One more thing is, if you actually look at traditional courtyard homes where you had tile roof, the rafters and the tile roof. When the tiles are actually placed, we all know that it's cooler in a sloped roof scenario. It's mainly because this hot air sort of escapes through these small pores that you have between the tiles, so that the cold air is always down, and that is again an effect of stack effect. There are a lot of things that we all can go on about talking about. Passive cooling techniques. So let me go to the next question. Designing a home. Every client who comes to our office asking us, or asking any architect to design a home, they majorly ask, do you know Vastu? Do you follow Vastu? It is a mandate when you're practicing in India that all your projects have to. I think 95% of our clients would want their houses designed by Vastu. So as architects, what are your takes on Vastu? Oh, I'll start with architect Ponnadityan. You're on mute. You're on mute. You're on mute. You're on mute.
Sorry. Yeah, like very much needed question to be discussing on, because there are like lot of misconceptions. Like there are a lot of advantages also, but like intertwined with conceptions, right? So to me, like not to me, basically Vastu Shastra emphasizes the importance of like aligning a home with like all the elements, right? So there are few reasons why we do certain things. So why a kitchen should be faced in southeast is because southeast is the area where women, or like any women in the house, basically. Let me talk about like women. So women in the house like uses in the first part of the day, like that is early. Like back then, we get up early in the morning, like 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and that's the first space which is going to be active. Like so back then, so we didn't have electricity, we didn't have like a lot of artificial sanitation methods and things to keep the kitchen clean. So southeast being the sunrise, like being at the east, so you get the natural light early in the morning, like from sunlight, and then this like sunlight that enters the house through the eastern side, it is going to keep the kitchen clean, like basically UV treatment without a artificial UV light, right? So so southeast is going to be the kitchen, and southwest is going to be the like most closed area, because south and west, like the sun's intense heat radiated area, which is going to keep the entire space, that corner is going to be warm and like without any dampness throughout the day. So where we store the grains, like store any like material that is going to be like kept safe. So that's why southwest is going to be the nowadays we keep it as master bedroom, or earlier days it was like grain storage or any storage basically. And north is going to be the like most like open and public area in a house, in any house, because north we have like natural daylight without sunlight, like without heat generated, with self shaded, like from the southern part of the building. People used to like spend most of their daytime in the north side of their house. So these are the few reasons why like Vastu is actually like putting places in each corners based on the function, based on the climate of the zone. If you see Vastu in Tamil Nadu might not like is not same as Vastu in like northern parts of our country, right? So they have a different set of like considerations. We have different set of considerations. So it's all basically science. Yeah. So personally, I find Vastu very helpful as it provides a basic framework. Even the this also answers to our like previous question of passive cooling. So we have like where to keep more opening, where to not keep opening, when where to be closed, and where to be the building should be like raised high, and all those things. So so this is one uh, easy set of standards actually, which helps us throughout the design process, and yeah, like did easily helps us to like convince clients and go forward with the design, right? Yeah. So Vastu for me is basically a helping factor, which is very important in our field. Yeah.
Great. I mean, Punartyan, like as you said, when you actually relate Vasu to the previous question, you have a framework that is helping you to drive the design process, taking into consideration your zone, like your geographical zone. There are different Vastus that's followed. So without depending on any artificial means of any cooling, you can actually follow Vastu and sort of bring some natural elements or like cooling techniques to the house on its own. So Bala, so what is your take on Vastu? How do you deal with your clients and their requirements with Vastu?
Yes, Nikhil. For us, actually, we follow Vastu to some extent, I would say, like not the 100% of Vastu. And again, it depends upon the client's wish, I would say. So how we see Vastu is like, again, Vastu is a kind of a belief system that we can see. Along with Vastu, we have actually how this Vastu evolved. If we go back and see, like all these are like some traditional knowledge, either it is trans. So it is up to the individual if they are strongly believing in it. Obviously, we are going for it. By default, we will follow the general vastu in our practice. This is because, like now, as what architect Adi was telling, now this has become a filtering system, like where this is putting into the structure, like the first and basic zoning of spaces, like where the living should be, where the dining should be. All these things are into frame when we consider vastu, and the same way also, we have clients. So as I said, my first project, the client he was against Vastu, and he is not having any belief with this all these practices. So the very first meeting, he said like, I don't want Vastu. Whatever the plan that you did, you just mirror it and give it to me. That is fine for me. So he want to have a very logical approach when it comes to the planning. So this is how it varies, and for us, we wanted to follow the basic, and we don't want to experiment with the belief system of our clients. So this is what I would say. Okay.
Yeah, Bala is like a very played it very safe. Where yes, I follow Vastu to an extent. Yes, there's always a line when as architects. I understand. So Nelson, so your take on Vastu? How do you deal with your clients with respect to Vastu?
Yeah. So as both of them said, so this Vastu majorly when we do the planning thing, this Vastu comes in when we do the zoning, right? When we as an architect, we start with the zoning. Like any one restaurant, cafe, residence, hospitality, or anything, we start with the zoning. So there, client will have some set of Vastus in their mind. Like basic Vastu, we all know as south is the kitchen and south is the master bedroom, all that. So they'll know this. Like southeast, we place the kitchen, the south is needed there since the land as polarity said, it's not needed there. It's all there. But this no, like if we keep the what do you say, locker there, so much money will come outside the house. And if we keep the bedroom there, the you'll get the babies too. These kind of doesn't make sense. So I'm not big fan of these kind of myths, but as we all say, this common sense and scientific factors, sunlight factors, climatology, the zoning part, everything makes sense. So we stick to it because it kind of provides a beautiful process we do the zoning and throughout the design stage, the opening sizes, the overhang of the roofs, everything in it when it comes to costing. So it's actually a good thing, but at some point of level, it crosses the line and goes to some false beliefs and fake statements. That's where we really get angry on this and when clients come and say to it because the plan will be very, very beautiful. From space to space, it will have a rhythm and it will have a beautiful what is storytelling throughout the stages. Client will be like, no, there will be a beautiful pond next to the walkway in the morning we can't keep the water body. No, I'll get poor. I'll be like, oh my. So these kind of thing are not good. But other than scientific factors, biometric input factors, definitely causes very good. yes, I would try to laugh.
That reminds me of a very one incident with one of my clients where the husband basically wanted a bathroom, which is the third bathroom of the house for outsiders. So he said, "Let me have it below the staircase, so that it is in a common space where people don't have to necessarily go through a bedroom to access a bathroom." So the wife, on the other hand, saw sent me an Instagram reel which talks about Vastu, which said if you actually put the toilet below the staircase, it is not good for your children. So they might get hurt or they might get involved in an accident or things like that. So the wife was okay to sort of allow, if guests come or anybody who visits the house, she was okay to allow them inside the bedroom to use their own personal bathroom, but she was not okay to sort of have a bathroom below the staircase. So when we work on projects in very compact areas, right? So we try to maximize, in a design point of view, maximizing the area. So okay, there's just a powder room in that we wanted, and we are okay to have it below the staircase because it was for the guests. So it should be in the common. That was from a design point of view. We posted that. So the husband was up to this idea, like, let's have the toilet below the staircase. The wife, on the other hand, was not okay for it. So the husband used to call me and he said, like, tell my wife that there is some sort of, a ritual that you can do to sort of overcome these difficulties after having the toilet below the staircase. So we always have these decisions, and it gets me to the point where, how deep are you going into Vastu, right? Vastu is a very good framework, climatic condition. It actually provides a framework for architects to do. I relate Vastu to the game of Sudoku. Sudoku has these numbers already put up. So when you know that 9 is already in that box, 9 cannot be in anywhere else. So you only have to figure out the kitchen has to be here, my living has to be here, the entrance is already here, which means the road is already here, which means the entrance should be there, main door. So to that extent, we actually follow Vastu, but not to an extent where we go very much into it. Because I remember one client said the main door should be northeast, door in the northeast, even the bathroom inside the bedroom should have it in northeast. So that is where it sort of started to cross the line. So we sort of have a balance. We tell our clients what is practical, and we try to follow Vastu as much as we could and use it as a framework largely. So I think we have come to the end of today's session, guys. It was very casual. I think we sort of discussed about our ideas. How do we do the basics to design a home? And thanks, guys. You guys were great today.